In this episode 1, we'll discuss how to break over 100 students in your martial arts school. Welcome to Black Belt Banter, the best podcast to help your martial arts school increase in profits and generate substantial revenue. I'm Jimmy Hong, and my co host is Master Chan Lee. Master Chan has over 2,100 active students with multiple locations. He is well renowned and highly respected by his fellow peers for his business acumen in operating martial arts studios. Master Chan, let's just get right into it. How do you achieve that 100 students goal?
That's the biggest question, right? A lot of people that are really into taekwondo or a great teacher, they decide to open a school and they just open the doors with no real plan. They just run some classes and just hope that they break that 100-person barrier. But from my experience, a lot of people are stuck in that 80 to 120 person range school. And they have that. There's an old movie that came out. It was called Field of Dreams by Kevin Costner. And there was a line in there that said, if you build it, they will come. And that's not really the case. People get stuck at 80 students or 90, or they're just at that 100-person mark. And after a while of doing it, they just haven't broken through. This podcast is just really to help all the school owners out there really break through, give them the kind of something to think about and so forth. And I really look at it four main pillars that we should really look at. And then there's subsects of that pillar. And so that first pillar is what I say is marketing. What exactly are you doing for marketing in your martial arts school? And that is extremely important because I think a lot of people just will do the traditional flyers, maybe do a Facebook ad, or they'll do something online, and it's just not as active as they should be, or they're not converting as many things as they should be, and so forth. And marketing is, first of all, everybody should say this out loud. Marketing is hard. It's hard. It's a very hard thing to do, and there's many ways to market your school. But I also want to talk about something called attrition. Attrition is when students quit, and it doesn't have to necessarily do with you and how you teach, but you've got to look at 5 to 10% of your students every month are quitting. And they move, they get a divorce, they get a newborn in the house, they get a job change, they lose their job. They have forces that go beyond what you can do.
And
So naturally, you've got to do something to replace that. So every year, people go, yeah, I enrolled 5, 10 new students a month. Let's just use 10 as a round number. If you enroll 10 new students a month, by the end of the year, you should have 120 new members. And then people go, if you look at your active count and you go, yeah, I've been stuck at 100. How many new students do you enroll a month? 10? And okay, that means your back door is closing too. So that's another thing we'll talk about. But basically, my point is that your marketing has to outdo your attrition rate. Of course, you would like to really push retention and things like that, but making sure that what your quit rate is, how many people are quitting per month, and you've got to just outdo that. Anyway, that's just the general rule for marketing and so forth. And then I believe in what I call face to face marketing. I believe that if someone sees me and I talk to them, and in 5 to 10 minutes, I feel I can convince them that they should either put themselves or their child into martial arts. And so we call that a core story. What exactly is your core story? What can you say? And people go, oh my gosh, I really have to get my kid involved with this. This is the greatest thing. And I think a lot of school owners don't do that. If I go, okay, why should I join your martial arts school? And a lot of school owners will talk what I call the side things of what they do. They go, I teach taekwondo. I teach Jidokwan style of taekwondo. It's the best taekwondo in the world. And it's really good for kids. And that's why you should do it. It's not a really good core story. So that's one thing that I would talk to martial arts school owners about is what is your core story? What would be something compelling for people to listen
so,
to?
wait,
The other thing is defining.
Master Chan, this core story, is that do school owners do that when they walk in as a potential lead or when they're just out and about, not even in their martial arts school?
Anywhere. They call it the elevators pitch. And these are all kind of old school business principles where you're stuck in an elevator with someone and you got to pitch them your product or whatever, and you've got to get them to sign up to your product. What exactly is that pitch? What gets someone to go, this is really intriguing. I would love for my kid to do this or whatever. And I joke with a lot of my friends is that I love airplane rides. And by the end of the airplane ride, One of my favorite things to do is to get the person on the airplane next to me convinced to get their, even if they don't live in my town, I'm like, do you have grandkids or kids or nieces or nephews or whatever? And I'll weave that into the conversation. And then by the end of the airplane ride, I want them to go, holy cow, martial arts is the greatest thing kids can do. The other thing I want to make sure people understand is, what is your core market? What exactly is your core market that people are going to buy? So a lot of people think, well, it's a bunch of 6 year olds, or my core market is 6 and 7 and 8 year olds. It's not. It's their moms and maybe some dads, but majority of the decision maker in the household for children's activities is done by the mom. So a lot of my marketing is mom centric. I want to make sure that it's that moms are convinced this is the greatest thing for them to do for their kid. That is extremely important. I think people are going to define who that person is. And one exercise I did back in the past is, if there was one person that you can describe as the perfect customer, who is that? And to me, it was a lady named Sally. She's 37. Sally drives a minivan or an SUV, and she has two children between the ages of 6 and 8. She is the perfect customer. And then I want to know, what does Sally like? What is she into? What type of colors, what type of flyers am I putting together that Sally is going to look at it and go, wow, this is the right place for my kid to go to. So just when you look at marketing, it's hard. You got to ask the right questions. You got to have a good core story. You got to define the market, who you're really focused on. And I used to do marketing where I looked at my student base and I go, we have dads, we have moms, we have kids, we have teenagers. But if I really focus on what does majority of my income come from, it's the kids. So I really want to make sure my marketing is focused on those kids and their moms. And that's what I really want to focus on in terms of getting them involved into my martial art program, in my taekwondo program, and so forth. And then guess what? I have an easy upsell for moms to try it, the dads to try it, siblings to try it, teenagers to try it. But the pipeline is what? It's moms, right? And to me, that's incredibly important that you do that. Marketing, those are some kind of generalities. I know we're talking general today. We'll do some deep dives in each one of these subjects later, but I just want to let people know, if you're at 100, just make sure, bottom line, whatever marketing efforts you're doing, please, you got to go past your attrition rate, your quit rate. You've got to make sure you look at your quit rate and make sure that it surpasses that. So that's one.
Well,
Two
well,
is,
let's assume, what type of martial arts schools have under 100 members? They could be 40, they could be 80, they could be 60, whatever, 50. But we can safely assume, generally assume, that it's a single school owner. It could be that they just started within a year, within 6 months, or they've been doing it for a couple of years. But it's not one of those schools that has a big payroll, a big staff, a big overhead, a bigger location. It'll probably be a smaller square footage school. So, would you agree with that, Master Chan?
absolutely. It's the one person band. Probably there's not PC right now, but the one man show is what we call it. It's that person that was a high level athlete, person that's really gifted, that is great at taekwondo. You usually don't open a taekwondo school if you're not good at taekwondo. Let's put that out there. And they love the art, and they're really struggling with, okay, I'm stuck at this number, and they're so passionate and so forth. And eventually I think we're going to get guests on this podcast, but and this is a side note, and this is not a knock on anybody, but a good friend of mine, she graduated from Stanford and she got an MBA from Stanford. She runs a taekwondo school, and I think they broke $2 million last year. And I asked her once, I said, what is the Stanford must have helped you out? It's a pretty amazing university to get into, very exclusive, 4% admit rate. And I said, what is the biggest thing you learned from Stanford? And her answer was, I learned to value my time. And I think I know a restaurateur in the town that I live in, and this person said the same thing. I have a principle with my staff members that I use. It's called WIN. What's important now? And I think school owners have to look at that. What's important now? Let's get to it, and so forth. But sometimes you're inundated into the day to day. You're cleaning your school. You're getting toilet paper at Costco or wherever, and you're running all these different errands to keep the place going. You're dealing with your CPA and you're running your own children. And there's all these different things. And then all of a sudden it's 3:30. Holy cow, I'm gonna run to the school, start running some classes. And so you really, and that's another concept. You're working in the business and you're not working on the business. There's always that saying, you got to really work not just in the business, you got to work on it. And there's it's a time management issue. You've got to also figure out, when do I get to this, block out that time and really get a chance to work on these different aspects. And like I said, I know we're bouncing here. Marketing is hard. And marketing is one of these things that you look at and it becomes an afterthought, because in the minutia of running your school, you've got all these things that are going on. And you're like, I just got to get a little bit more focused on what we're doing and so forth.
So these the assumption of these single school owners, their location would not be in a prime real estate market where there's high foot traffic visibility. So you have to assume that yes, they're putting on multiple hats running these locations, but they're not going to have a lot of foot traffic that just they just stand there, open the door, open for business, having class, and a bunch of people are going to come in. So how do they market themselves to get that more foot traffic in? And one of the things that is just vitally important for every school owner is, are you keeping monthly stats? And it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be just a simple Excel spreadsheet that says, hey, this last month, 8 people came in. 8 people was your lead and they inquired about it, or 4 people walked in, 4 people called in and they were inquiring about it. So from that 8, how many did you enroll? How many took that intro? So if it's 2 or 3, then you have to you have to look at yourself, say, hey, your sales, your intro is not strong. You have to convert that into a higher number. But if you don't have stats, keeping these last month, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, you're not gonna know where your weaknesses are, you're not gonna know where to improve in, and you're not gonna know what you need to do to get over to that 100 members.
100%. If you don't know where you're at right now, then you don't know how to get to where you're headed. And it's a dashboard. You got to look at your school like a race car. You've got to make sure you have all the important measurements that you can use as a way to push what buttons and push what levers in certain areas and so forth. And you will find, if I asked every school owner across the country and I said, okay, where do you get a majority of your students? And a fair amount of them will say this. They'll go, I got my students from referrals. They go, it's word of mouth. It's word of mouth. I'll tell you what, 80% of the small businesses in the country, you could run a dry cleaners or you could run a Sky Zone or any of these other things out there. And then they'll go, yeah, it's been word of mouth. And then we did some other marketing and so forth. So once again, earlier in this podcast, I said, hey, face to face marketing is the biggest thing you can do. So, what I mean by that is, are you running naturally internally lead generating events? And so, let's start with the oldie but goodie, which I know a school owner who has 14 locations. And I said, what's the thing that you do for marketing? And they came up to me and said, oh, that's simple. It's birthday parties. I go, really? We do 3 to 7 birthday parties on a Saturday. That's all we do. And why? All kids have birthdays and they invite their friends. It's a naturally occurring event. You want to rapidly grow your school, start doing birthday parties. Now, there's a sales event too. I've done birthday parties and I haven't gotten anything. I'm not going to lie to you. That means your birthday parties suck. After an hour and a half of running a birthday party, and if you're getting no students, that means your birthday party pretty much sucked. It should be one of these really fun, exciting events that the birthday boy has a fun time and then all their friends are inspired to go. Mom, dad, I want, and I'll be honest with you, I only want 2 or 3 kids from a birthday party. I see 30 kids and I go, I just want 2 or 3 to come from that birthday party. And I always say this to people too, is the kid with the Giannis jersey, the kid with the Jokic jersey, anybody that wears a jersey that looks super athletic, that is not the kid I want in my taekwondo school. I
That's
want
so
the
funny.
why? because they're probably in 6 or 7 different things already. The kid is on the soccer team, the kid is on the basketball team, the kid naturally is gifted physically. So he's trying every little thing and every little coach out there wants them. And if this kid really wants to come, he'll come. It's the kid that's quiet, shy. I'm during my party, I'm going to make sure that we give some TLC and just be like, hey, that was good. Good job, buddy. What's your name? Joe. Hey, Joe, man, that was really good. I love how you raised your hand on that drill and whatever. So I got to target who I really want to talk to and so forth. And so everybody runs these just general parties and so forth. I just want to make sure I'm very intentional during my party to really focus on the people. Once again, what did I say at the beginning of this podcast? Marketing is hard. It's not one of those, I'll make a flyer and they'll come. You know what? Look at my marketing. I put a sign up on my Dojang window. See? 2 weeks free. That'll do it.
No, but
Referrals.
that
You need
that makes perfect sense because if you just do the math, let's say you have a birthday party of 20 to 30 kids and your target is three, let's say three kids out of that 30. Well, if you do four birthday party, 4 weekends a month, and you're getting three of those each party, that's 12 students right there. That's 12 students that you've enrolled and that you've raised through your attrition. If your attrition is 4 to 5%, that's 12 students that is replacing that attrition, that lost students. And that's how you, and if you do that each month, that's how you're going to get over just by doing birthday parties, going over 100 students in just a few months.
absolutely. And then you look at it and you go, you know what? Want to rapidly grow? Then do 2 or 3 other events. Have a buddy day. Have a report card party. I'll talk in depth at this at other things on how to run each of these things. Really, if you pack your internal marketing calendar, you can do that. The other thing too is I call that face-to-face marketing. I also call it external marketing. Is what do you do out in the community? Are you going to schools? Are you doing talks? And I do these talks to the Rotary Club and the Chamber of Commerce in town. And I talk about our business and our family history of running martial arts schools and so forth. I will tell you, right, that after doing these talks, I'll get 2 to 4 students each time I do it. And I do this because I really want to impress Jimmy Hong. I want him to just say, man, you are a really good talker. All right, just kidding. I really want to make sure I go back to that core story. What exactly is your core story? What is a story that people are compelled to listen to and do it? I would start with yourself. Make sure your story starts with your background, why you got started, and how Taekwondo transformed your life. Start there. Your core story should start with yourself. It shouldn't start with a pitch. People are interested in who you are and how you got to who you are and what you're working on and so forth. And that story should be compelling that people go, wow, this is really good stuff. Let me just tell you, Jimmy, did you start doing that where you blended shakes and stuff? Did we tell you about that? My wife and I were talking about it.
No, tell
No.
me about it. Tell us about it.
10 years ago, one of my friends who's a doctor started doing this shake thing. And I'm not here to sell anything to you, but basically it was this. We're not eating enough vegetables. So basically you steam your vegetables. So you steam your carrots, you steam your what is it? Your tomatoes and broccoli. It's a lot of work. And you steam all these different high nutrient valued vegetables and then you put them in a blender and then you make a shake out of it and it tastes nasty. So you got to put some other sweet stuff in there. And so when you start drinking that, you'll have all the nutrients you need. And then I've been born with eczema. My eczema disappeared. So I've been telling friends, I'm like, dude, this is free. You just got to make it and so forth. I had all my friends around me doing this shake and cleaning out their insides and so forth. And this is what a Harvard trained doctor was saying, and he was using with his cancer patients. My point is that your story should be that. It should be your core story and so forth. And like I said, I'll talk about this in a different episode about core marketing story. But my whole point is that you need to come up with your own core story of why is Taekwondo, why is joining your academy a transformative experience for the people that are going to join your school. And so when you have a conversation with a parent in the lobby that walks in, they are just, yeah, I found the right place. This is what I need to do for my kid. This is great. And then, we want to keep these podcasts short and we'll do a lot more of them. But the other thing is sales. Is your sales in doing it? Is it easy for them to join your academy? Is it prohibitive? Is it, yes, all our beginners, we start at 10 o'clock at night. It wouldn't do that. Oh, we only teach beginners on Tuesdays. So come back next week. Do you have a sales system that's easy? You can start anytime. It's a time for my customers to want to just try out the program. Is there a high barrier to entry? Yes, our program, you have to buy uniform $99 and then we'll give you a week. Is it something like that? Or is it 2 weeks free, or the first week is free on us, just try us out, or buy uniform and then we'll give you a free month and just try it out. And so making sure that the prospect doesn't feel like they're getting sold on and it's not a high barrier to entry. Now, the other thing is that once they do the trial, that trial should be so amazing that they go, man, I I found the right place. My kid is here for life, not just for 2 years or 1 year. I feel this is a lifelong activity for my kid through high school. That is my goal. That is my end experience for
Do
everybody.
you recommend these smaller single school owners, masters, instructors, their intro system as a one-on-one separate from the class? Or do you recommend these new leads to come into their beginners class directly and do a week or 2 week session and then enroll them into their basic program?
If you're a one man band, I would make sure that your class is the most important thing. So the classes are very good. I used to do the one-on-one intro for 30 minutes and all that stuff. I do a 5 or 10 minute orientation and then I just throw the prospect in class. I want the class to sell itself. And if I don't have a system, and once again, we'll go over all in detail and all that, but I want the class to be so transformative and fun that after 2 weeks, they're asking me, how can we enroll? And if you're not getting that question, then your class is, once again, I'm not going to lie to you on these podcasts. It sucks. It sucks. It's terrible. But you've got to make sure you have a fun class, that you have enough help, and you're not just such a one man band, which is the next thing is staffing. Like I said, we can go in so many different areas here, but I just wanted to let everybody know there's the first thing is marketing, sales, then there's staffing, there's class planning, and then there's also kind of upsells and upgrades and making sure that these people can turn into lifelong practitioners of what you do. So anyway, many different things to be thinking about in terms of doing that.
Right. And within that marketing, we really talked about if you're not doing birthday parties or you stop doing birthday parties, get back into it. There's no reason why you shouldn't. And don't make these birthday party high barrier to enroll. Make it easy. Make sure that the pricing is fair and lower than market. Compare it to other birthday parties that they do, whether it's a bounce house or I don't know, bowling alley. Your pricing is adjusted to that, not just what you want to charge. Because ultimately, who cares if you're charging $200 or $400 for birthday parties when you can get two to four to five of their friends enrolled into your school for $195 or $165 each month and raise your student count over 100. That's the end game there. So don't get stuck. Don't get, hey, this birthday party should be $400 for 30 people and $295 for 20 people. Make sure that barrier to entry is easy and is easy for them to join and easy for them to invite their friends. Also, these birthday parties are a softball pitch for you because you have a student who's really excited and motivated to come to your school, so much so that besides their weekly classes, they want to do their birthday, spend their birthday at your school. That means that they're super excited about it. They want to share with their friends. You don't even have to really pitch anything, right? You could just do what you've been doing week in, week out, and is exciting, fun martial arts classes, and all you're doing is you're copying that to their friends. And if that your student loves it, most likely your students' friends will love it as well. So it's not a hard sell on these birthday parties. And again, Master Chan says, if you're not converting these students, then you have to look at record your birthday party and watch it. Record it, watch it, send it to one of your friends who owns a taekwondo. We all know each other, right? Send it to them and have them evaluate it and have them critique it if you're not able to see it yourself. A big important thing in terms of marketing is that birthday party. Do it now, do it soon, and if you stop doing it, start doing it again.
That's you bring up a great point, which I'm kind of surprised about because those don't happen too often.
You're-
Okay, sorry. Anytime I can get a dig in, I love doing that. But anyways, the point is, I wouldn't be where I am at if it wasn't for my circle of friends. And so, if you're around other schools that are they only have 100 students, more than likely you're going to have a hard time breaking through 100 students because you guys are all trying to figure it out. Try to find other people you can network with that are doing better than you are, and that is where you want to be, and that you have a good kind of friendship with and a great a mentee mentor relationship with. And if you're around a really strong circle of people, it's really good to have them kind of bounce ideas off, and people are willing to watch your birthday parties and just give you a little bit of feedback. Heck, record your classes. And if you're okay with getting hard feedback, then do it, because you're not going to get it with, we're living in a society where we like to just hear what we want to hear. And we're in a silo society where people go, yeah, this guy makes me feel really good. You don't want to be in that room. Master Hong, great point. Right. It's one of those things you just want to make sure you are able to get some feedback on what you're doing, how you're doing it, all that stuff. I think that's just incredibly important. Otherwise, you're not going to grow. You're just going to be same stuff. What is it? If you don't do anything new this year, then it's just another year. I saw that quote and I was like, oh, that's a really good one. But if you want this to be a new year, you got to do something different. So think about that. And
Oh, I just want to say to our listeners that even though Master Chan has over 2,100 active student count, which by far is more than 99% of school owners out here, he still goes to and visits his friend's school, networks with other school owners, and because they've all heard of them, they're friends with them, they're all more than happy to invite them over. And he goes and studies how other schools are doing and compares and tries to get a couple of things that if there's a couple, if there's a lot, that he can implement to his school. So Master Chan is still constantly learning, constantly networking, constantly checking out and comparing notes with his friends and peers and fellow martial arts school owners. If he is doing that at this stage, you should be definitely doing that with your single school with 100 or below active students. That's just a very important tip that you should be doing.
absolutely, I look, once again, every year I must go to, I don't know, eight to 10 schools a year that are different or that I'm trying to get new ideas from and so forth. So once again, if people don't know my background, it was just me and my dad. My dad is a grandmaster in Taekwondo. We ran a school, had maybe 250 students. My dad did a great job running a school, built his own building. I graduated college. I joined forces with him and I did everything I could to help learn the industry. And this is back in the 90s, guys. This was back, that's how I got started into all of this. And then tons of my seniors have given me great advice over the years, and I've implemented a little strategy here and there. And we went from one to two to three to now six locations. This is a very important part. I look at myself as a professional martial artist, then I should be professionally educated in new policies, new procedures. And the world is different. Look at the way people are consuming movies right now. No one's going to the theater. Everybody's consuming all that content online and in their own houses. Hugely different. Did you see? I got a couple years ago, I got a 70-inch TV, and I was like, wow, this is the biggest TV I've ever earned. I think almost $1,500 or whatever. And now I saw a 75-inch TV. It was $400. It costs less than my iPhone. And now my iPhone is $1,100. And I'm like, geez Louise, it just, the smaller the screen, the more expensive it is. Anyway, my point is the world is different. It changes. It pivoted. It made a huge pivot after COVID. So whatever information you have, you've got to keep studying, keep learning, and so forth. And so, anyway, my point in this podcast is to help educate and give back to the martial art industry. I really believe we have the greatest gift for children. It's the art of Taekwondo, and it's them learning about themselves and helping them become better human beings. And right now, we have a humongous issue with mental health in children. And Taekwondo is what a great way to get these kids active and making them better citizens and making our world stronger. And it's going to get worse. AI right now is coming out, and people are getting to be friends with an AI chatbot. People are going to be socially messed up, even then some. Jimmy Hong is even having a hard time interacting with real people. So it, sorry, that was another dig. I'm sorry. I just can't help it. So,
Episode two so that I could start digging back. But I promised myself on the first episode, no digging to Master Chan. So dig all you
yeah,
want because this episode is the one to do it, Master Chan.
yeah.
And to put, I'm
Uh,
sorry, I just wanted to, yeah, Master Chan, if you haven't figured out by now, he does traditional Taekwondo. That's his style. But this podcast and our Black Belt banter is for all styles of martial arts. This is the business aspect of martial arts. So what you teach on the floor is you and your expertise. But we're talking the business side. We're talking the marketing, the sales, the program. We're going to be sharing and discussing like this we did today. We only have a few minutes left and we're going to end this episode in a few minutes. But just to let you know, it does not matter what style of martial arts that you teach, this will apply to all business school owners.
and just to give you guys my background. My background is traditional Changhun Taekwondo. It's a derivative of an ITF Taekwondo, if you really care. My dad grew up in that system. I grew up in that system. And then trained at Yongin University in Korea and just modernized some of our Taekwondo policies and free sparring. And the Olympics was going on. And I became the Wisconsin State coach for Taekwondo. I produced a couple national level athletes. So I know that modern style of Taekwondo. And then Taekwondo has now taken another shift in Pumse. We had some high level Pumse athletes and so forth. So I got involved in that world for a little bit. And so I like anything that kind of unites stuff. I also did Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. That's a part of our curriculum. And I think Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is a great complement to what people do in Taekwondo. I think mixed martial arts did a wonderful job of really opening the doors because I grew up in an era where it was my kung fu is better than your kung fu. My monkey style will take out your crane style. That's the era I grew up in, and I know there's probably younger people on this podcast. What the heck is he talking about? But anyway, if you're into 70s and 80s kung fu movies, you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's the era that I saw. And then when UFC happened, it was like, whoa, we need to be cross trained and everything. So I also learned some reality based self defense from a huge mentor of mine, Mr. Dave Young, who works with the special forces and law enforcement. And then I went, oh man, half of these traditional techniques are not realistic to combating self-defense. And so we've adopted that to our curriculum. And then I do Kali and Eskrima, a good friend of mine, and another great teacher of mine is Grandmaster Percival Bableo in the used to be Doce Paras, now he has his own system. And then I also have picked up a verbal martial arts curriculum run by law enforcement. It was a wonderful curriculum for people to verbally de escalate. I thought verbal tactics is not a part of martial arts. So before our students knock someone out, what can they do? Use their words to de escalate conflict. I think just my martial art background, and you look at my business background and you go, okay, this is a guy that knows a lot. And I do this long list of everything because I want you to understand how awesome I am.
Yeah, no, but
Oh, sorry. Okay, good. All right.
that's a
Okay,
joke for those who doesn't.
that's a joke.
That's a
All right,
but
good.
this it brings
All
a
right,
good
good.
point that Master Chan, like I was saying, even though he's at this level, he still goes out and learns new stuff out there because we can constantly learn. The world is always moving, changing, evolving, and Master Chan is not the type to sit and be, oh, I'm doing so great, I don't need anything else. And this is the reason why he is where he is today, is because he always has an open mind to knowledge, to figure out, hey, how can I implement this and make my school better. He's a very traditional martial artist and he could just stick with that traditional curriculum, but he's no other things out there that are changing now can help his school and his students. And that's just something that we
Oh,
want
I,
the school
I
owners to
gotta
do.
give one shout out. I gotta do a big shout out. Right now, my biggest thing I'm into, I've been religiously trying to get better at, and I know you have too, is I've been doing Coach Eddie Cha's striking systems. Man, that guy is a genius. Learned a lot on different ways to strike and from Muay Thai traditional kickboxing to MMA style to boxing styles to taekwondo kicks, and the guy is a literal genius. And then you get to see the stuff that he's teaching being applied in the UFC is pretty remarkable. So that's the biggest thing I've been getting on, and all my black belts have gotten into boxing, kickboxing right now, and that's part of our curriculum at JK Lee. So even though I say I'm taekwondo, right, I've learned. Let me just break this down so people don't go, okay, so what exactly are you? I'm about 65% traditional based taekwondo. And then the other 35% is a mix where I call reality based tactics. What's real? What can you apply? And so forth that has a street value to it. So I'm not a competition school like I used to be. And my students love it. So anyway, once again, you've got to be a student of the game and you've got to, and this works for me. This may not work for you. This may not, all this adding curriculum and whatever may not work for you. I know some very successful school owners, all they do is taekwondo. That also works as well. It's just the way my brain is wired in terms of learning new things and getting new things down and so forth is an
Awesome.
important
Awesome,
piece of the
Master
puzzle.
Chan. Well, let's conclude there and make sure you guys come back for our episode 2 next week. We're going to be just going over invaluable content just like today, just like on this episode. Thanks for joining us here at Black Belt Banter. Master Chan, it was a pleasure talking to you as always, and I'll talk to you next week.